Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to review a 1954 musical, White Christmas. This film was directed by Michael Curtiz and stars Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, and Vera-Ellen, and features the songs of Irving Berlin. The film grossed $30 million on a budget of $2 million and was the highest grossing movie of 1954. It was also the first film created using VistaVision, a higher resolution motion picture film format that the world had never seen before. And some would consider this movie a classic for those reasons. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the right perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
I am Brittany Wright, and I'm the youngest.
Y'all, we are about to discuss White Christmas. We got to pick a voting symbol. I have one to recommend for us, and it is the train. Okay, why the train? So the train in this movie, it took them physically on a journey to Vermont. But the movie is really about a bunch of personal journeys, right? At the crux of the movie, we are talking about an Army general that is moving from active duty to retirement and experiencing that journey. We're also looking at performers who, some of which are trying to get a big break, some of which have been solo performers, which are now part of a duo. We're also watching romantic journeys, okay? Individuals going from being guarded and single to actually finding love and being open and challenging themselves to get over themselves and be open to romance. And so there's just a bunch of journeys that are being documented in this film. And so I recommend the train as our voting symbol. What you got, bro? It says.
I couldn't come up with one. The only one I thought of was a snowflake, just as a normal, but it didn't have but honestly, I'm not going to get into discussion yet. Caught myself, but I'm saying the only one that came to mind was a snowflake, but it doesn't really, I don't have a meaning behind it. I mean, it's White Christmas, so snowflake.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I said train in my head.
So a train.
Okay, so we're going to do the train. In our podcast, we always do a recap. And it's because these movies are old, okay, mostly the ones that we review. And so it's going to have a ton of spoilers in it. Again, I just had a lot of familiarity with it. It's so interesting. But we're about to get into a recap, so then we can get into discussion. All right, if you haven't seen the movie, this recap will give you everything that you need to be able to enjoy the podcast. And if you haven't seen it in a while and it's a little dusty in your mind, this recap should serve to bring it all back to the forefront. So let's recap White Christmas. The movie opens in Europe in 1944 on the war front in World War II. We see a group of soldiers being entertained with song and dance by two of their own, Captain Bob Wallace, played by Bing Crosby, and Private Phil Davis, played by Danny Kaye. We quickly learn that Bob Wallace is actually a renowned Broadway star. And at that time, people would have paid like $8 or $9 to see him perform, which in today's money, based on a random inflation calculator I found, is like $140, okay? And for a second, you're confused. Why is he in the service if he's a celebrity? And then you remember that the draft was in effect at that time. The Selective Service and Training Act meant that any able-bodied man between the ages of 18 and 64 were required to register with their local draft board for military service. And their names could be pulled via a lottery. And according to defense.gov, more than 10 million men were inducted into the Army, Navy, and Marines through the draft, including celebrities and notable figures. And so back to the movie, this is why performer Bob Wallace is at war, performing with Private Phil Davis, who is not famous, but is an inspiring performer. And they were doing the show, for their colleagues, primarily for two reasons. Number one, it's Christmas Eve. Okay. And they're on the front lines. And number two, the Pentagon is replacing their beloved general, General Waverly, played by Dean Jagger, with a new general. And they want to send him off in style. And you get a sense that General Waverly is like firm but fair, and he's like a great mentor and leader. And the men really respect him. And they all just learn a song and they begin to sing to him in gratitude. We'll follow the old man wherever he wants to go, long as he wants to go opposite to the foe. We'll stay with the old man wherever he wants to stay, long as he stays away from the battle's fray. And just then, their fort starts being bombed by enemy forces, and they all run for cover. A falling wall almost crushes Bob Wallace, but Phil Davis pulls him to safety. And after the war, the two of them become a performing duo. Bob wasn't really up for it because he was already well known as a solo act. But Phil, this guy that was aspiring performer at the time, he kind of guilts Bob into it because he saved Bob's life. And in fact, Phil is constantly, in a loving, friendly way, but constantly guilting Bob into doing things that are outside his comfort zone. So professionally, this has actually worked out pretty well. As a duo, they have received a ton of acclaim and are now, over time, they are now not just performing, but producing a huge show. It was Phil's idea that they become producers, but Bob's skill and business savvy clearly are what made it happen. And now they are working all the time. And Phil is starting to think it might be too much of a good thing. Okay. He wants some downtime and Bob has them rolling. And so Phil is like, you know what, maybe if I can get Bob to start dating, we can both get a little break away from work. And so he's trying to like hook Bob up on dates, and Bob is not even hearing it at all. He's shutting him down. He says he does not feel compatible with the women in their industry. He wants a mature, serious relationship or nothing at all. Okay. Just as the current and Wallace and Davis production is taking a break for the holidays, they get a letter from a friend from the service, asking them to come and see his sisters perform nearby. And the request is from their army buddy. So of course they go. And guess what? His sisters, the Haynes sisters, are very talented performers. They are great singers and dancers, just like Wallace and Davis, and they are both quite beautiful. And they are somewhat enterprising because one of the sisters, Judy, played by Vera-Ellen, the youngest, actually wrote the letter and forged their brother's name. Okay. The older sister, Betty, who's played by Rosemary Clooney, she lets Wallace and Davis know about that, trickery, and, they're not upset or anything. But you can tell that she is not up for that kind of foolishness, or really any foolishness. Okay. And Judy even describes her older sister, Betty, as a mother hen kind of figure in her life. And so the Haynes sisters, it turns out, they've been booked to perform at a resort in Vermont over the holidays. And Phil, seeing an opportunity to get Bob and Betty to hook up, because they clearly have a little spark between them, he manipulates things to get Bob to agree that the two of them should go to Vermont with the Haynes sisters. And when the foursome arrives in Vermont, they are confronted with two unexpected surprises. Number one, they are in Vermont in December, and the temperature is in the 60s. No snow on the ground. Okay. The whole time up, they're like, oh, we're going to go skiing. We're going to be in the snow. No, you're not. Number two, the resort they're visiting is owned by none other than their beloved General Waverly. They are so happy to see him, and they immediately salute him, and they're getting a chance to catch up. And it turns out that General Waverly sunk all of his money, his savings, his pension, everything into this winter resort in Vermont. And now he is about to go bankrupt because there is no snow. The resort's not doing well. And immediately, of course, the guys spring into action to get some business to the resort. They bring their entire production up to the resort, and they have to pay their staff extra because they're supposed to be on a winter break at that time. But no, they get their staff rallied, and they bring them up to the resort in Vermont. And they go on air on a national television show and make a plea to the men of their regiment to come up to the resort and bring the general some business. Now, in the meantime, Judy, the younger Haynes sister, is now in cahoots with Phil to get Betty and Bob together. And at some points it's going well, and Betty and Bob are connecting and they're being vulnerable with each other. And at other points, it just seems like Betty is putting up walls. Phil and Judy, the younger sister, they're seeing Betty pull away. They're seeing it happen and they don't know why. And they think it's because Betty feels so responsible to her younger sister that she won't let herself fall in love with Bob. She's just making up walls. And so Phil and Judy decide to pretend to be engaged so that Betty can feel free to fall in love. But guess what? That doesn't work. It turns out that some local gossip had told Betty that Bob is actually going to make money off of the benefit show for the general. And you know what? Betty's just so disappointed, and so, but of course, rather than going to go confront Bob about it and talk it through, she uses that gossip as a reason to pull away from him. Now, of course, eventually she does find out that Bob and Phil are not going to make any money off the general and off the benefit show. They are genuinely doing the show to help the general. And so once she finds that out, she does let herself fall in love with Bob. And surprise, along the way, while they were scheming, Phil and Judy have also fallen for each other. Okay, they had a spark since the beginning, but by the end, they've both given into it. And the benefit show is a complete success, and they managed to keep it a secret from the general until the night of. So when he walked into the show that night, he saw dozens of men that have served under him in the army and their families, and he is completely touched as the men sing to him the same song they sang his last night on the front lines. We'll follow the old man wherever he wants to go. Long as he wants to go opposite to the foe, we'll stay with the old man wherever he wants to stay, long as he stays away from the battle's fray. And if that didn't make the night glorious enough, it started to snow. So they would have the white Christmas they wanted after all. The end.
As always, great job.
Thanks, y'all. That one was fun, And I couldn't help but compare it to some of the other recaps that we've had recently. Some of our movies, even though they are movies that are, considered iconic, the actual stories have been so simple that the recaps didn't even have twists and turns and complexity. They were just simple stories, and in some cases, simple stories done well.
Take a note, Hollywood.
Yeah, you don't need all of that. And for this movie, it had more layers to it than some of the movies that we've done recently, just in terms of like the number of storylines happening. And so I'm looking forward to getting y'all's perspective on this, especially Bro. You're seeing it for the first time. Brittany, it wasn't something you had almost memorized like the way I did.
I didn't really recognize much of the movie.
But you said you ended up with a tear in your eye, though.
I did.
Whoa.
It was actually, it's weird. It's like, I haven't really been into the holiday spirit, quote unquote. Like, I haven't wanted to celebrate anything. Thanksgiving, Christmas, not even Kwanzaa. I'm just like, y'all, it's the end of December. It's going into January. Who cares? And like seeing the end of the movie, it was just kind of cute and sweet. And I was just like, oh, it made you feel a little bit of the warmness that you're supposed to have during this time of year. Mm-hmm. And I felt that from the end of the movie. And I was like, oh, I can appreciate, these things coming together like this for them. So, but yeah,
were you like enjoying the movie all the way through?
Yeah, I was cracking up at some points. Like, I love the character that played Phil. Any movie that he is in, what's his real name? Gail or Kaye?
Danny Kaye.
Danny Kaye. I love Danny Kaye because he just seems like he's actually that silly person in real life.
Having a good time.
Just walking through life, just, the glass is half full. Like he's just having a good time the entire time in life. And it just spills into the character. And then watching the two of them together, having the more cautious friend and then the one friend that's always tricking him into something. And then him just having to hold his arm. It's like your arm has been fine for years. You're still, how are you guilting him all the way into producing shows? Like, how is this?
And they both knew what was happening.
Let me clarify that for those who haven't seen the movie for a while or haven't seen it. When Phil saves Bob's life by pulling him away so he isn't crushed by the wall, Phil gets a little scratch on his arm. And it is a little scratch.
It's a little broke. It's like a spring. In
the moment, he said, Bob even says to him, "Oh, that's just a scratch. It'll be fine." But meanwhile, Phil has been milking this thing for now, like years and years and years. And so when he's guilting, he points to that arm like,
he'll hold it like... And it's just so funny to see their dynamic and him just allowing it to happen. But Janiyah and I were talking about this. Do you have that friend that will they just say one thing and you're in the shenanigan? Like you're just fine. I'm about to do it. I was telling Janiyah, you have two that do, bro.
You have two friends that pull you into shenanigans?
Yeah, it's like one, her name is Brittany, and the other one is Janiyah. And like these two, let me tell you, they will call me, ask me to do something, and we both know what type of manipulation is happening, but it doesn't matter because I do it anyway. So yeah, I've been. I'm saying
they sound like top-notch fun chicks.
Man, those two are just they seem genuinely awesome.
They do. Based on what you just said,
pretty great. They seem pretty great.
Yeah,
they just know what they're doing. That's all.
You know what, bro? Go ahead. One of our cousins kind of does that to me. Jasmine kind of does that to me, where she just like. I will be silly, but my one friend that passed away, Portia, she would have you all know the song, The Tree in the Hole in the ground. My friend
and the green
Portia,
grass grew all around and around. The green grass grew all around.
My friend Portia, may she rest in peace. She got me and my friend Ashley to get on stage at a talent show and rap that song. How?
As college-age adults?
No. This is post-college that she got us to get on stage. To this day, I'm single because of that. And I know that's why. I know it's a video circulating in these streets that I don't know about.
The universe was like, she ain't ready based on this.
Ready. Y'all, oh my goodness. She had a zero, like, it doesn't matter where she is. If it is something that is going to be ridiculous, she was part of those shenanigans. I remember having two college friends that they would go places and speak a fake language. And then the one person would speak the fake language and the other person would pretend to interpret. It did not matter where we were. Bowling alley, restaurant, it did not matter. So just being around those type of people that are just like, let's do it. You're like, no, don't do it. Okay, I'm in. I just don't know what to do now. I'm in.
Yeah. And bro, your first time seeing the movie, what did you think of the dynamic between the two main guys? What did you think of that friendship?
Honestly, I didn't feel like I was watching a movie. I felt more like I was watching a variety show. And so I didn't feel like I was watching a relationship develop. It more felt like dialogue put in between musical numbers. And and I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, but it didn't feel like a movie. It felt like a show. Like, all right, so this is what we'll say kind of in between this musical number and that musical number. And so I didn't feel like I was watching a relationship. I felt like I was watching a bit. You know what I mean? Like if you had two people who were on stage doing a bit, you know, like Abbott and Costello, like they had a routine type of situation. So that's how I felt about their
bro, you know,
relationship.
it's funny you should say that, because in watching it, it reminded me, because part of what they're doing throughout the show is putting together actual shows. And so it becomes a way for them to have song and dance without it being the kind of song and dance for the storytelling of the show.
Right.
And so it's really one of those things. It's the same thing that happened in Singing in the Rain, where they were in the musical, creating a musical. And so they were able to sing and dance and do that in a way that didn't have to move the story along. It was just different scenes from productions they were making in the musical. And it made me actually start to think about like shows like The Office and Modern Family, where they have like that interview format or like that confessional, where periodically in the episode, you hear the like what the characters are thinking, and you get the backstory because they just tell you. And I love those shows, by the way, that in some ways it makes the storytelling more simple, because the characters just tell you the backstory instead of the show having to give you the backstory or give you what they're thinking. And that's what I felt as I was watching White Christmas. And I always feel it when I'm watching Singing in the Rain too. It's like they aren't organically adding all of these songs and dance numbers. Part of what they're doing in the storyline is creating songs and dance numbers.
And I feel what you're saying, definitely. But Singing in the Rain still had some organic numbers.
Yes, they did. Yes, and this one did too. This one did too, but
I don't, because like even when it was but even because like when he think about this title track, Singing in the Rain, okay?
Yeah.
That gave you the feeling that this dude was just
in Cloud 9.
Yeah, you know, and he was just out, and it just felt very like almost that is what would be happening.
Yeah.
But White Christmas, I mean, they just come in and on the stage just singing. And again, I'm just saying, I felt I see what you're saying, but I felt a lot less of that organic at all in this.
Yeah. And they did something that I actually, and you all correct me, like if you have a different recollection, but I can't think of any other musical where there was a song that came up in what in the movie storyline was an organic moment. And then it became a song that they actually used again in an intentional way in the actual like movie itself. So like, for example, there's a part where Bob and Betty, they're connecting deeply, one night at the hotel, and she's struggling to sleep. We know she's struggling to sleep because she's falling in love and fighting it. And they, they're together in the end, and he sings this beautiful song to her. I count my blessings instead of sheep. And he says, when I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep. And I fall asleep counting my blessings. And it's the most beautiful little moment. And then the next day, they are using that song in the production that they are creating for the general. And it's like, I just thought that was, so when they did have some of those organic moments, they then made it a song. So it corrupted it in some ways.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I was on Jazz and Cloud 9 while I was watching. It was just, I just saw it as a comedic musical and just things unfolding the way musicals do.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Now that you all are saying it, I could see that part. But one part of me wonders, did they sing it to each other? And then we found out that it was in the production. Like, was it always in the production? And he was just singing it to her. And it was, just them singing it. And then this was also a movie that was in the production. Like they had already, this was a practice.
I like that.
Because she knew
the
word.
Let's go with that. Yeah, I like that.
But the thing is that even if that is the case, and I'm not saying this is a negative thing.
Sure.
But I'm saying even if that's the case, it still goes to Jania's point, because then it wasn't what I like about
didn't have a problem reusing music, because we heard that sister song 3 times.
And that was another thing. And I'm just saying, because the
I didn't hate that though. I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate anything.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, when they redid, there's a point in the movie where when we're introduced to the sisters, they do a song. And shortly after that, the guys redo it as a lip sync. And I felt like they didn't have to go through the whole song again, but they did. Yes. They went through the whole, I felt like we get the joke or the point, and that could have been, but what I love about musicals is, and this is something that only people who love musicals really will get, okay? But I love how they not randomly, but they'll start singing in a moment, because that is the expression of the emotion in that moment. You know what I mean? So it's like when they break out into song, because we've all been in those moments where it's like, I can't even express how I'm feeling right now. And those songs communicate those feelings in those moments. So it's like, okay, when Millie is riding up and she's like,
in 7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
In 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. And she's just like, it's going to be so great. Just one man. And she's just thinking about... Right, that's what I'm saying. It's just like, she's just thinking about, man, I got to deal with all of these crazy people at the end.
Yeah.
And then she just starts singing, because it's just like, and then they go to the next scene. And that's what I love about musicals. But musicals like Singing in the Rain, which they did it a lot, but not as much as this one. This one, it was just like everything was just, the musical numbers were just plopped right in there. Mm-hmm. And I got the point that they could do it, because it's like, well, we're putting together a show.
Mm-hmm. And we're practicing full costume. It's
totally.
But
full costume.
And they would just say it. They would just say it.
And let me tell you something. I love Judy. I love her because Judy did not mind being like, oh, we're going to get this done. And I'm going to make sure it gets done. Because if she had not ever sent that letter to Davis and Wallace on behalf of their brother,
just signed his name right on that dotted line.
Signed his name. She would have they wouldn't have been where they were by that point in a Davis and Wallace production, Wait.
So you're saying there was a sister who felt like she could do anything with her brothers, whatever they wanted, because it was their brother and they could just do whatever they wanted.
That part of the movie felt very familiar to me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It resonated. But I would like to point out, they said when the older sister found out what she did, which I was like, this would be Jania for sure. She was like, he's out of the country in Alaska. And I was like, out of the country in Alaska? And y'all, I was so confused. I said, now hold on now. And it made me think about it. I was like, wait, when did Alaska get basically drafted into America? Mm-hmm. And y'all, that was in 1959. I was like, that's 5 minutes ago that Alaska and Hawaii became states. We can get into became as the word I'm using right now. But I think that it was 19, let me double check because I texted to y'all because it threw me off.
It's 1959.
1959. And I was just like, wow, so he was out the country. And so just but those different parts. But Judy is a true testament to, and even Phil. So it's funny that those two ended up together. Phil used his arm and Judy used her trickery to get what they want, but they were both successful in the end.
Totally. And I love this little quote. Judy said, honesty needs a little plus, fate needs a little push. She was like, I was like, girl, you better say it.
Listen,
it does.
It does. And that's where, and that's what Phil was doing. Yep. Phil would be like, oh, we should be producers. And he was like, what producing? It's like, Phil, don't grab your arm. Stop grabbing your arm. You know that.
And y'all, I did do some reading about this film because, again, I just, I'm
scared.
No, so scared. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared.
I just don't want you to say something like they held a Confederate flag every day before they started taping. I'm going to log off.
You read my notes.
I'm going to log off.
You read my notes. No, that's not what I was going to say. That's not it at all.
Okay.
But sis, when you were just talking about the character that was, Judy, the sister, who was played by Vera-Ellen, y'all, she did some dancing in this movie. Okay. And when I say she did some dancing, it was like watching Gene Kelly in Singing in the Rain.
I would agree with
just
that.
Like you.
I would agree with that.
You are on this land to dance, lady. Don't you do nothing else with your life. And I was like, oh my gosh, to be able to dance like that and have that voice.
Effortless.
She looked so happy.
But guess what?
When she was dancing.
Guess what? That was not her voice. So she is a dancer, but the voice was dubbed when she was singing because she couldn't sing.
I knew something. Let me tell you something. When I was watching her dance with that other man, I said to myself, I think that she's a dancer because her acting really wasn't that great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't super awesome. And I was like, I think she's a dancer that can moderately act, but they needed a dancer because of what they wanted to do with this musical. I was like, that makes so much sense.
The woman that the dubbed voice was Trudy Stevens. I got to shout out Trudy Stevens.
Come on, Trudy.
That voice of Trudy Stevens and the dancing ability of Vera-Ellen, well, that was quite a lady. I mean,
she did that.
And y'all, just as the actress that played Judy couldn't sing, guess what? Rosemary Clooney, who played Betty, couldn't dance. And it's one of those things that she owns. She always owned it, in interviews and things like that. Well, she did. The choreography that she did do in this movie was very minimal.
It was so simple.
It was very simple because she is not a dancer. So anyway, they had cast these women, one a singer, one a dancer, and the characters were needed to be both. And these actresses weren't both. But that's just the magic of good movie making.
Sis, that we believed it. I knew it. I knew she wasn't a dancer because I started noticing that while everyone was doing things, she was on the side like, and I was like,
she was Benjamin.
She was Benjamin. She was Benjamin from Seven Brothers. Benjamin was over there clapping.
He was the clapper.
He looked fantastic, though.
He encouraged them every time.
He had that good red shirt.
He had that good shirt on.
Mm-hmm. I think Benjamin was orange.
You know what? He was orange. Thank you.
Yeah, he was.
Thank you.
Listen, all I know is that I said that. I promise I said that when I was watching it. I was like, she is not a dancer. Everyone is always dancing around her. And even at the end, I said, I wonder what classes she took to do that little tap dancing thing behind those big outfits. Because I was like, wait a minute. Okay, she's doing a little tapping now. She must have really had to have some classes.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But when the other one was doing her tapping, that was...
She was so good.
Like when she did the rapid tap on both feet.
Y'all, I tried to do it. Did y'all try to do it?
It was so fast.
Okay. I was like, can anyone actually tap their toe that fast? I mean, my toe was going 1/25th.
Right. I was like,
Here's the thing. I just want everybody to know I believe, see, what you got to understand, Janiyah actually tried.
I did.
She's not just using this for comedic purposes.
I tried. And I was like, because if I
wish you could move your camera right now so we could watch it. Like, we want to see a live version of you trying this.
Just imagine someone being horrible at something. And you got the chance. Okay, because my toe was not tapping.
You could do one of the most complicated tap moves, having no tap training ever.
None.
What would make you think?
Listen, that's how you start though.
It's the same thing that had me watch Alvin Ailey the other day and come home thinking I was in Revelation. I wasn't in Revelation. They had not picked me.
Here's the thing about Alvin Ailey. That stuff doesn't even look simple.
Oh.
It looks like what Alvin Ailey is like. You're making it look easy, but it clearly is not.
Alvin Ailey,
it's clearly not.
They make you question your life decisions. You're like, am I doing anything good?
Right.
Am I doing anything well? I don't think I am. I don't think I am
clearly not.
Because I don't think I'm doing it as well as that. The way they contour their bodies. Oh God. What?
The muscles.
And the thing is that
flexibility.
So good.
In that sense, all of the numbers were great.
Oh yes.
You know what I mean? But
the dancing, singing,
but
everything.
For me, what I enjoy about a musical is one of the biggest things I enjoy is what we were talking about before, as far as the expression of the emotion. But I also like seeing how they integrate the scene into what they're doing. So like if you think of, like a West Side Story when they're doing Officer Krupke and like how they are integrating everything that's around them into the number.
Yes.
But when you're seeing a set piece on stage, which like there were even times where they would start off in a regular situation and then they would spin each other and all of a sudden they're on the set piece. You're like, what? Weren't y'all just dancing, like in a room and now you're on the stage somewhere. And so, like I said, the fact that they spend so much time on stages and stuff also kind of made it not feel like a movie to me.
Listen, it felt like a fun show.
Oh, it was fun.
Now, there was a part, though, that I was a little bit like, Judy's character, who's the dancer, I said, listen, stop looking at the camera, because you're not supposed to be looking at the camera at this point. It was when they were dancing on the patio area and all those different things. She kept like looking at the camera a bit and smiling. And I don't know if that was by accident, if it was on purpose, but I was just like, she's looking not off into the distance.
I didn't catch that. I wonder if that's because as a dancer, they end up focused down center. Yeah. Downstage center. Like that's what they do.
When you're just with a guy,
if the camera happened to be right there.
You're supposed to know.
Oh,
this is a movie.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to hear any criticism of Vera-Ellen. Not on this podcast, not anywhere in the world. Because that Vera-Ellen right there, listen, that lady with her...
With that size -3 waist.
Oh, those legs were skeleton legs for sure. But those legs could tap and they could do some ballet.
Wasn't not a piece. 0% of the body fat. I said,
oh my gosh.
Honey.
To me, she was excellent. And also, Britt, you were talking about Danny Kaye and how enjoyable he was to watch. Y'all, he was singing and dancing, you know what I mean? So he truly was the combo. And he was actually their third choice for that role.
Wow.
They had started with Fred Astaire because apparently Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire had been doing some buddy films, They started with Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. Eventually he was out for different reasons. And then they went to Donald O'Connor. Remember Donald O'Connor from Singing in the Rain? And then he, backed out. And no. You know what it was? Fred Astaire said no thank you because he thought he was getting a little too old for parts like that. Donald O'Connor fell ill. That's what it was. He fell ill and couldn't do it. And then they went to Danny Kaye as a third choice. And y'all, I think the universe worked that out because
absolutely
he killed it. He was just so delightful in that part. And his dance, he kept up with that Vera-Ellen, as her partner in a couple scenes.
And I want to discuss that how everybody was able to get to Vermont overnight. Everybody, I said, this is when you're watching a musical. Everybody, they brought their whole families, were able to get to Vermont overnight.
It was the ones in the Northeast region.
Was there a bullet train that I didn't know about in 1944?
And honestly, Britt.
What? I was like,
but at that point,
they didn't mention things.
At that point, to me, it was just like, they're not trying to make a movie. Like, that's just what that's what I thought. I just felt, which is not, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Sure.
It's kind of like when I saw Fantasia for the first time. I'm like,
yeah, that's just a bunch of scenes.
Yeah,
it's not a story, really.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. Now, here's the thing. The performances were so good that it's enjoyable to watch. And I also understand why people consider it a classic, because it seems like a movie you can have on while the family's all there, and it's just kind of playing.
Yeah.
Like you don't gotta be fully engaged in this movie. It could just be kind of going on. And then, this is my scene, then you could go watch your dance
Tap
number.
In and
yeah. So I understand why people like it.
Well, bro, I uncovered a factoid that is really gonna make your case for you about like how the film feels to you in the way that you're describing it. And I'm not saying because I felt the story, I felt the movie, I really did, but I hear what you're saying. And it turns out that they had the song first. So they it wasn't like somebody just wrote a movie. They had the song and they were trying to build the movie working around the song. So the song White Christmas was actually already a hit when the movie came out. And so they truly were putting together a movie for the song.
Yeah.
So, bro, I think like that really makes the case that you're making here, which is like
I said, I don't, because like Brittany's talking about, this is just a fun, way to show these great scenes. And so like for me,
almost like someone made a promise and was like, I'm going to get you into a movie. Just you watch. And then I'm going to get all of you into a movie. Just you watch. And they were like, boom, done.
Yeah. I just
didn't feel that. I followed that story.
Because I think of all of the, like think about like Freddie outside of Eliza Doolittle's house or Henry Higgins' house. And he's dancing, but he's using the light posts and like he's using, or even her dad, get me to the church on time. It's Sound of Music with the chimney sweeps, right?
Not Sound of Music, that's my favorite.
Mary Poppins.
So but what I'm trying to say is that like that's the point. Like you're supposed to be like in the middle of a conversation, and then all of a sudden you're on the table like, there's another dude like, and next thing you know, you're in a scene.
No,
like, that's what I like.
But bro, why do you let Singing in the Rain off the hook then? Because it really does the exact same thing.
I don't let them off the hook. No, because what you're saying is very true. They actually literally did this. same thing
Same
a couple
thing.
of times in the sense of, they did the whole scene and you could tell they backed up and out they're out of practice. But what I'm saying is Singing in the Rain had enough of the moments that were organic.
Got it.
Like when they were all dancing in like that living room where it was, I think, and it was just, they were dancing around the chairs and on the furniture and stuff. So they had enough of that. Plus,
it's morning. That's what I'm saying.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. Yeah.
And what I'm saying is even, especially the title track was one of the best in the middle of a, because like you could just see he was just, it was almost like that's what would have happened to him in real life. Like if you were a singer and you were just feeling good, you would just be rolling around like, I'm singing. And that was a masterclass. Think about all the things he did, the puddles, and just like when he started jumping in the puddles, and that scene in and of itself was enough for me to, be excited about it the whole movie. Yeah. So I don't let them off the hook. I definitely understand
but they did
what
it better.
Saying.
They had more of the organic. They did.
They had, some of it. But everything, it was like, y'all on the stage again?
Well, Bing Crosby did have, his moments where he was just singing, slightly moments when he was singing randomly. Just a little, but nothing that was at that most. But I felt like it was a movie, but it was definitely movies with stage performances. But I was okay with all of it because the whole movie I was like this. Like I just was so happy. I was like, oh, they're dancing again. It was just so.
Another good one. Another good one that popped into my head was Annie. In the beginning, like they're cleaning and then they're using the broom.
We haven't done that one yet. We need to do that.
We sure do.
Annie. Listen, I will tell you. Bing Crosby in this movie, and I don't know if that was his, I don't know if he's still alive, but that was his personality. He was so smooth. When he was talking to Clooney's character for the first time, the older sister, I cannot.
He passed away in 1977.
Okay, listen. What was the older sister's name?
Betty.
There we go. Because all I know, I did a little research. That she is George Clooney's auntie.
Rosemary Clooney. I just want to
put that out there. So she said, but when he was talking to her, he was like, yeah, everybody's got an ankle. And so there's something he said, dame. And I was like, listen here, I know I'm supposed to marry if they use the word dame. That word, I don't know what it means. I don't know the origin of it. If it's something negative, don't tell me because I like dame.
You want somebody to call you a dame.
I want to be a dame. You don't want to be a dame. I said, I like dame, which that's another thing we need to do, guys and dolls. But a dame, I said, okay. You're a little smooth with these big ears. You're a little smooth.
You're smooth with your blue eyes. I know I think Frank Sinatra's old blue eyes, but I'm like, Bing Crosby, you got some blue eyes, son. And, but sis, I wonder if that was one of the lines he improv. Bing Crosby, it turns out that he did a lot of improving. And that's part of the thing. It's like he was already a big deal at the time, Okay. He did a lot of improving. And they had a lot of fun on the set. And sis, that scene that you were talking about where it's like they were performing Sisters to the recording and it was like, why do they do this again? Well, I loved that scene because it looked like the two of them were having so much fun. The two guys singing over the women's voices. Well, guess what? That whole piece with Danny Kaye hitting Bing Crosby and just like hitting him like playfully, that was not part of the choreography.
That makes so much sense.
So when you're seeing Bing Crosby look like delighted and having a good time, he's actually delighted and having a good time because he was surprised and they decided to use that take. So it's one of these things where it's like there was a lot of improv and fun happening that made its way into the movie. And since that particular line you're talking about, like the day, I wonder if that was something he improv or if it was written.
Because see, and that makes so much sense because by the end of that performance, Bing Crosby was genuinely laughing.
Yes, he was.
He was laughing. And I was like, and I feel like everyone in the actual audience was laughing as well. Like everybody was actually having a good time in that moment. And they're like, we need to keep this, because this is genuinely what would have happened in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, like we're supposed to be seeing these two sisters and these men that didn't try anything but put on headbands and get them feathers and roll their pants up. And I was like, you are out there with these rolled up pants on.
Yes.
What is happening right now? I was cracking up. I was definitely cracking up.
Y'all, let's talk about the music then. Because that sister scene, that is actually a song that I have sung to Brittany. God bless the mister who comes between me and my sister. And God bless the sister who comes between me and my man. I just love that. So let's talk about the music, y'all, in particular. Are there what did you think of the music? Is there a favorite song that you have? Was there a song in there you could have just deleted from the whole thing and been happy?
Listen, the parts that I was not expecting, that's more so that when Judy was dancing and the other male dancer who was her male lead, I don't know what his name is, honey, but that man that was dancing opposite with her, he's phenomenal. Okay. Phenomenal.
So good.
And so I love the music changing. I was just like, I wasn't expecting that, where it started kind of get a little sexy sound to it and real kind of, they're getting into the drums. And I was like, I said, I wasn't expecting that. And I like it. Yes. Also, those were my favorite parts.
So that's not even with the lyrics. That is just that good soundtrack.
That
to
musicianship.
Yeah.
Listening to them, I was just like, oh, this is so. And to think that this wasn't a situation which I don't know if they had this during that time, but you had to play the music while certain things were happening. Like, didn't the orchestra have to play? Like, I don't know if there was editing at that time where they were adding the music after the things happened. I don't know how all that works.
I'm sure that's what it was, because even now they will do separate audio track.
Yeah.
So that they can enhance and maximize audio.
Unless you're reading Moreno in the new West Side Story, when you just sing right there on set because you're that good.
Boom.
That had nothing to do with anything we were talking about. I'm just saying that was one of the few situations.
I'm happy you put that out there
where that didn't apply.
Listen, okay. That's what listen, this is a podcast about jazz. It's about jazz.
I'm sorry. It just took me there when you were taking that, because I was just thinking, because I was like, yes, that is true. Unless you're reading Moreno in 2021 and you're just singing
play
there.
With Rita. Don't play with Rita.
And you're singing on set. And everybody's like, yeah, we just gonna have to leave that in because we're not dumping over that.
We're not dumping. Yeah. Listen, y'all, there are just some people out here that movies and stuff like that just doesn't do it justice. Yeah. You have to see it in real life. Yeah. But at any rate, you could hear it on this. Yes. Just listening to it and being like, these are individuals who are well-trained. This is a well-trained orchestra. And it sounded, it just sounded so good. Yeah. And that thinking that if they had to re-record so you could hear their footsteps or their tapping or whatever, how they put that together. Amazing. Because it's not like now where you could press a button and just like add a sound. It's like, no.
I do think about that.
Like, we have to hold a mic here and right. Where we have to put this sound in, like, that to me.
You're right. That's impressive.
And I also thought about that just in terms of the actual movie when it was like, listen, get everybody up here. We're going to do a show in Vermont. and all the things they had to bringing a set with them,
Yeah.
all these things. I was like, you know what? Shows do travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how all that works, but I was like, these shows actually do have
They break down and set up
and keep going. I was just like, wow, just see, everybody was probably like, all right, cool, because life is jazz. We're in Vermont now. Let's go.
Yeah. And everybody in high school that was in the stage crew, shout out, because we didn't take y'all as seriously as we should have. Because that's a real career out here. Okay.
If the mics sound bad, if the music is off.
Yes.
Lighting.
These are advanced skill sets out here.
It can
to bring these
productions
to life. I've been watching Broadway shows lately. And y'all, I mean, some of these sets, it is just like,
they're
whoa.
Intricate.
Whoa. Now, of course, these are not traveling sets I'm watching. These are sets that are meant to be on this stage. But it is just like, whoo, the intricacy. And it's just, they're amazing. They're amazing. So, well, bro, what about you in the music? A favorite song, or how did you feel? Brittany was clearly transported. How did you feel about the music?
I'm still there.
You in Vermont right now.
The music itself definitely brought me into that musical space.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, I like phonetically hearing the sounds of those types of singers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it definitely brought me there. I wouldn't say that any of the songs stood out. That tap dance performance that we were talking about stood out to me, because that was just like that, the skill involved in that.
Yeah.
And like the way she did it, it was one of those things where, yeah, I'm doing something most people can't do right now. Like,
mm-hmm.
like even people who do what I do can't do this. But and so that stood out to me. But so there were dancing parts that stood out to me more than the actual songs.
Yeah.
So you loved when they threw her down the stairs? I was like, I'm sorry. Are they throwing her down the stairs right now? I said, listen, we all would have been stumbling down them stairs. You start throwing me. We're dead now. Listen, we all got broken bones sitting here looking like this. I was like, did they toss her? They tossed her twice. They tossed her twice. I was like, okay, well, that's great. I love musicals. We're done here. All right.
So good.
We're tossing people.
Well, y'all, Brittany was transported by this music without the lyrics. Y'all, some of those lyrics, and maybe it's just the mood I'm in right now, but I felt like they were ministering to my spirit.
Go on, talk about it.
Man, y'all, the lyrics of the song Blessings, okay? When he was like, I count my blessings instead of sheep before I go to sleep. He has a line in there where he says something along the lines of, when my bankroll is low, I just think about when I didn't have anything at all. And then I fall asleep counting my blessings. And I was like, you better put things in perspective in that song. I just really appreciated that. There was another song that was about, and it was one of those that was actually a dance number with very little lyrics. And it was good things happen while you're dancing, something like that. Oh, the best things happen while you're dancing. That's what it was. And y'all, that song, the lyrics are basically saying when you're out on the floor, you're able to accomplish things that you can't normally accomplish in life, because you're in that space of dancing, and it's miraculous is basically what the very few lyrics are saying. And I was looking at Vera-Ellen in all of her dancing majesty, and I was like, this is what it is like when you are doing what you are supposed to do. And so I was just like, see, when she is dancing, for her, something amazing is surely happening.
Something is happening.
And it was just, for me, I was like, I just think that's where you got to be. That's how you're in the pocket of your life. If you are like Vera-Ellen dancing, that's your journey, girl, clearly. And that song, that best things happen while you're dancing, I was like, there's a way to fill in that line for everybody. The best things happen while you're doing what? Like what is happening when your life is in sync and in rhythm and you're on track? Whatever that is, that's what we need to be focused on, you know? And then the last one I just have to call out that I just loved, y'all, was that song, What Can You Do With a General? And it was just a simple little song in the movie. It was where
I don't know, those lyrics sounded kind of messed up.
Bing Crosby's character, Bob, he is making the plea for everybody to magically, within 24 hours, get from wherever they are to come to Vermont to be with the general. And he sings a little song because they don't want it to feel sorry for the general. That's not what they're trying to do. It's not about pity him, come. It is, we owe him this respect. Come and help save this inn, you know. And in the song, he says, when the war was over, there were jobs galore for the G.I. Josephs who were in the war. But for generals, things were not so grand. And it isn't hard to understand. What can you do with a general when he stops being a general? Oh, what can you do with a general who retires? Who's got a job for a general when he stops being a general? They all get a job, but a general no one hires. And for me, that was just like, oh my gosh, it just became one of those stories. It was one of those songs that applies to every person that retires. I just think about you hear these stories and I frankly, I think we've been able to see it in the lives of some of our loved ones. It's like that concept of retiring, you know, it's like it should be a celebration. But for some people, it does end up being just a space of just life displacement. And I just thought, man, what a beautiful way to sum up how the world needs to make sure that everyone is enabled to be successful, whatever phase they're in their life. And I just thought that those lyrics were just beautiful and poignant. Yeah. And they should really be AARP's theme song because it's like, y'all make space for the retired generals, y'all.
Listen.
Let them be meaningfully engaged.
Well, speaking of the general, two people that were like his sidekick characters, the innkeeper and his granddaughter. The innkeeper, which Janiyah helped me realize who she was, that she's Sister Mary Lazarus.
Did you notice that, bro?
From Sister Act. And I was just like, how did you even get that? But after you said it to me, sis, I listened to her voice and I was like, this is clearly her. And I just love how these types of movies always have this sassy woman that is in there that is not like, listen, her job was to get him in his general suit to this thing. Baby took all his clothes out of his closet.
And she was like, they're all in the cleaners.
I took it to the cleaners.
They're all gone.
He was like, you took all my suits. She said, you only have two.
Yeah, I was like, but that did make it a little easier to accept. Because it was like, at first, I'm like, did you take his whole closet? But as soon as like, okay, I can see you grabbing two suits.
It was so funny, but they're probably no options. None. It was like they're not even at the cleaners. They're probably in her room right now. I took them to the cleaners. I was just kind of, she was like, well, you don't have to come. Really? I was like, wait. But those types of women, like almost like she is his wife, but that's not his wife. Mm-hmm. She's clearly taking care of him. Yeah. But he's like in denial about being taken care of right now. He's like, when that exchange had me cracking up. I was just like, she said, you only have two? And I said, he probably only has two. And he just needs to put this general outfit on. But the other side of it was when he came down the stairs and he had his general outfit on and his granddaughter, she was looking at him in awe.
Yes.
Like, I've never seen my granddad look like this before. Oh. So I just really appreciated her looking. And then she was so happy and so proud that she started walking in step with him. And so I was just like, this is so sweet. This is so sweet. Just to see her be so excited to see him in his outfit and knowing that he's about to get honored in this way. I just think that was really sweet. I didn't want us to like rock, because I'm pretty sure we're probably, towards the end, but I didn't want us to leave without talking about them.
But sis, you also didn't do the Black people report yet. After we do that, then we can wrap.
Okay. There were two. Listen, I thought it was two black people on the train.
This podcast was all about fun and love.
So listen,
it still is.
The name of the movie is White Christmas.
Lord,
we're here. We're there. Mm-hmm. The movie is taking place mainly in Vermont. We're there. Okay. So their expectations are low. Now, but when I saw a brother with his white jacket on the train, I said, well, hold on. We made it onto the train.
As a bartender.
As the bartender. And he got suitcases. You didn't see that part.
He was a porter.
He has two jobs on the train.
That's
double
right.
pay. Anyway,
hopefully.
Then there was one, and I don't think y'all noticed him. He was one of the individuals that was part of the army.
Yes.
At the end, he was one of the men in line. And I said, well, that's Harry Belafonte hair. I was like, that hair doesn't look like the rest of these people's hair. I was like, you snuck in? They didn't know.
Oh,
you just snuck on set and put an outfit on. Yeah. They didn't know. It was afterwards. They were like, hold on.
What?
When did you make it off the train? That's what happened. So that is but it's fine. Yeah. I knew going into this movie that it was going to be what it is, and I was okay with it. I didn't even care. I was like,
and I didn't care either. The only time I had a little bit of you got me was when they had a whole song that was about minstrel shows.
Okay.
And they had a song that basically said, oh, we missed the minstrel shows. And they mentioned Georgie Primrose as the minstrel show that they missed. So I didn't want to do it. I had to do it. I had to look up Georgie Primrose.
I literally didn't do it because I said, if I see somebody in some blackface.
I actually tensed up when I saw a minstrel show. I was like, is this going to be one of those things?
Totally.
But they didn't, dude. In the movie.
But they celebrated minstrel shows as an institution, which is the piece that is the only thing to me that I was just like,
this was
and in my mind, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to assume it meant something different or something. I was like,
that's what I wanted.
Just let it go.
Can I tell y'all, I actually looked it up to be able to tell y'all, this is not what you were thinking, but it was. Primrose and West was an American blackface song and dance team. And all of the pictures are exactly what you're thinking of right now. Red lips and the dark. So, So other than that, I didn't have any moments in the movie where I was like, otherwise it felt like I was fine with it. I could roll with it. But that was the one thing I was like, why would you have to sit there and celebrate minstrel shows? You could have put anything in there. You could have said, we love comedy show. You could have sung anything.
Like, it literally didn't have a place. It didn't have a place. And it was talking about it said bring it back. And I was like, don't bring
do
that.
Back. They said it over and over. Bring back the minstrel show.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because I you know what? And I'm not going to lie. I intentionally did not look nothing up. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just let this one go because I was like, I'm going to just hope it doesn't mean.
That's it. Now that we've completed the blackness report, we can now close the podcast. Let's take it to the vote. Let's take it to the vote,
really
bro.
Stop doing these blackness reports on movies that came out in 1950.
We were around.
Listen, I'm just saying. All right, go ahead.
Go take it to the vote, bro. Does this movie get your train?
I mean, the movie gets my train. You know, I'm not for my, and this is a weird vote for me because in my personal experience, I don't see myself revisiting this movie, but I got it. I understood why people like it, you know, I got it. I got the idea. And the last thing I wanted to say is that this movie didn't really have nothing to do with Christmas for real. It was kind of, even that was shoehorned in But it was just like, you know what, whatever. You know, like the movie's not that serious. It's just a way for us to showcase these phenomenal dancers and singing voices and some, you know, instances. But so I get it. So it'll still get my train.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It gets my train too. And, you know, that little minstrel celebration moment, it reminded me of, you know, the movie The Holiday with like Jude Law and Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz and Jack Black. Y'all, I really, really enjoy that movie. I do. I actually really like that movie. And there's one part in it where the Jude Law character, he puts a napkin over his head and he's making up a little fun voice to entertain his children, but he clearly looks like he has on a KKK hood. And it was one of those things where it was like, if they had had any person of color anywhere in the production of this movie, and I mean anywhere, someone would have said, oh, can we use a yellow napkin? Or just purple. Any other color napkin, and it would have been fine, but he puts this white and then it's triangle. And so, but even though I know that's coming, I still watch that movie when it's on TV because I like the movie. And so I feel that way about that little minstrel celebration moment. I get over it. I accept that it happened and I can celebrate the movie beyond that. And I do like this movie. And I told y'all, and so if this isn't one of the movies that we watched all the time growing up, somehow over the course of my life, I got really acquainted with it. I don't remember when it happened. And so I really enjoy this movie. I would watch it again. I would watch it again on purpose. You know, like I would, you know, sit down maybe one day and say, oh, I'm lacking in Christmas spirit. And then this movie like puts me in a good mood. I didn't feel bored. My attention didn't wane. I was singing, again, tried to tap dance, didn't pan out. But this movie definitely gets my train. I find it very enjoyable. Sis?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I definitely give this movie my train. I enjoyed it the entire time. And I will tell you, for me, it was an encouragement to, if you want something, do what you need to do to go after it. You don't have to be illegal. You don't have to, you know, do awful things or harm anyone. Because when Judy sent that letter, she didn't know if it was going to get to them. These are big time producers. They're national attention. Like, she didn't know, but it did. And it got them to come to their show to just see these two women that are just performing in a restaurant. So I wasn't
even mad when he found out.
Wasn't even upset. He wasn't even upset because he was like,
he gets it. Hey, you have to take your shot, baby. We're here now.
You don't know what's going to happen. So though, how often, you guys, if you are having opportunities, you don't know. Okay, let's just try. Let's just see. So that was something that really resonated with me about, you know, just having the audacity sometimes to just try. Just try it. You don't know. If it works, great. But if it doesn't, okay, at least you tried. So anyway, I did do it. I did enjoy it, and it definitely gets my train.
Y'all, well, there you have it. White Christmas is a classic from the Wright Perspective. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And this movie is posting, this podcast is posting on Christmas Day of 2021. And so happy holidays, everybody. And thank you. Tune in next time for the Wright Perspective. Bye.
Bye.